Ruben Amorim is getting closer and closer to taking charge of his first game as manager of Manchester United. And of course, as a fan base, we're all incredibly excited about the journey we could go on over the next few seasons, and the potential this side could fulfill in 3 to 4 years. However, there are problems that need to be solved in the short term, and Ruben Amorim I think will use a slightly different approach to what people are anticipating, certainly for the rest of this season. If you want to know what that tactical approach actually looks like, quickly subscribe to the channel. We're really trying to hit 45,000 subscribers this year. You could be the one to help. If you've done that, let's get into the video. So like I said in the intro, there was a lot of talk about how Amorim will set up this side, in the ideal situation in a few years' time when we've got better players. And one thing that a lot of people have spoken about is the high press. However, I don't actually think we are going to see that too much for the rest of this season, and there's kind of 3 main reasons. One is the fact that we don't have the most intense forwards, we don't have the best ground covering midfielders, and we also don't have the most mobile defenders. So I think for those reasons, we are going to see a slightly different approach from Ruben Amorim till the end of the season. And what we are talking about here is the mid-block approach. So what does Ruben Amorim's mid-block approach actually look like? Well, a lot of the time, it is essentially a 5-2-3. So the wing-backs or the wide midfielders, as opposed to being high on the opposition fullbacks, will actually tuck a little bit deeper here. Then we will see the double pivot in front of them, and then the front 3 will drop off a little bit deeper. And the point here is that they are not applying pressure to the ball initially. Instead, they are trying to block passing lanes for the opposition. So let's say the opposition get into a structure where they want to try and move the ball forward. The aim for Ruben Amorim and Manchester United this season will be to compact the middle of the pitch. And what we can see here is this front 5 pressing shape. We've essentially got a pentagon shape in the middle of the pitch here. And the aim for them will be to stop passes into the opposition central midfielders. They will try and stop centralised progression. And this is something that Sporting have often done in big games. For example, here against Benfica, you can see initially there isn't too much pressure on the ball. The Benfica defender has a bit of time on the ball to get his head up and look for some passing options. Then we see the Sporting 5. How are you meant to get the ball into the middle of that pitch there? You can't really. And it's because these 5 Sporting players are so close to each other, so narrow, so compact, that it makes it pretty much impossible for the opposition to move the ball into these 2 central midfielders. So this is something that I think we will see from Manchester United for the rest of the season. And it's something that Ruben Amorim is really good at coaching. He is brilliant at coaching this mid-block that stops central progression. Again here, the player on the ball actually has a bit of time, but he doesn't have too many passing options, certainly not in the middle of the pitch. And that is because, once again, Sporting have this sort of pentagon shape in the middle, stopping progression through the centre of the pitch. And again, in terms of the opposition midfielder, he can't really receive this ball because if he does, he is immediately going to be under pressure from several players looking to close him down straight away. So this is the aim here, and I think it's what Amorim will bring to Manchester United, trying to stop that central progression. Now, in order for this to actually work for United, we will need to see good ground coverage from the 2 central midfielders. They have quite a lot of work to do because in moments they will be asked to drop a little bit deeper and help out the back 5, but they are important to this front 5 structure. This pentagon press, they are needed in these positions, and they will have to do a bit of work sort of buzzing about the pitch. They will have to cover a fair amount of ground, kind of snap into tackles, and be combative in their duels. Something that Amorim could do to help them out, though, is squeeze the back line a little bit higher, and that is something that I think we will see. And that is why this is a mid-block as opposed to a low block. You see, the back 5 will squeeze a little bit higher like this. Like this, we will play a really high line, and I think this is the structure that we will see from Manchester United. The 5-2-3, like this, players on the ball will have a little bit of time in deeper areas, and United will essentially really, congest the middle of the pitch. Stop central progression in these areas, with the centre-backs also squeezing to help, reducing the space that the central midfielders have to cover. And I think this is the sort of football that United will try to play for the rest of the season. In terms of how the opposition may try and take advantage of this, it will be the long ball in behind, because they will have a bit of time on the ball, and with time but also space to hit, that could be a little bit dangerous. So Manchester United will have to make sure that they get the high line right, something that Sporting done very effectively at times. You can see that line of back 5 across there. On the halfway line, in the mid-block, this is a back 5 formation in this situation. But what you'll notice with their body language is that they are nearly all side on. And the reason they are side on is because if the ball goes long, they don't just want the ability to go towards it and head it, but they also need to be able to backtrack the other way should the ball go in behind. This is why mobile defenders will be important for Manchester United. Certain players might struggle with this a little bit. Someone like Lenny Yoro, on the other hand, could really thrive in this sort of system because he's a good mobile defender. And that is essential because these players need to be ready to go backwards, back towards their own goal as the ball comes along over the top. This is something that will be key. You can see it again here in the same game, once again against Porto. The back five on the halfway line, no pressure on the ball, which invites the long ball from the opposition. Once again, you can see the Sporting players side on with their defensive positioning. Again, this means that they are ready to pounce up and be aggressive and step into midfield to win the ball back, but also, should the ball go over the top, they are ready to defend side on, turn and accelerate back towards their own goal. And again, in situations like this, they have to be ready, they have to be alert. And a decent bit of agility and mobility will be required, as well as potentially a proactive goalkeeper. I do wonder if we may see Onana used in this role where he comes off his line slightly more regularly than what he did under Erik ten Hag, to sort of sweep up that space behind the back five. Now for me, that high line will be one of the most important things for Amorim to get right in the second half of the season if we want to see this sort of short-term success for the rest of the year. That's going to take a lot of work. These back five, these defenders, they aren't really used to playing in this way, so it will be a challenge, but I think we have some of the personnel that are able to do it. Something else that Amorim will be very aware of is the opposition trying to exploit us out wide. You see, we've spoken about already the fact that Manchester United and Sporting previously would look to compact the middle of the pitch, to congest the middle areas and stop the opposition playing through the centre. However, this does come at a cost, and that cost is you leave space a little bit wider for the opposition, particularly in the half spaces for the opposition midfielders into these areas. This is something that Amorim will be very aware of, and it is a slight problem and a slight weakness in the system. At times it can make it a little bit too easy for the opposition to progress the ball and almost take control of the game, because they're able to move the ball forward relatively easily at times. Now, in terms of the way that Manchester United can kind of fight back against this, hard-working forwards will be key to this to try and get back and help out. Ground covering central midfielders over short distances will be important, kind of snapping into these challenges. Ugarte should be perfect for this sort of role. But also, it will be really interesting to see how we use our wider centre-backs. Will they be tasked with stepping out and engaging into these positions, or will they sit off a little bit deeper? If they sit off a little bit deeper, the opposition will get a bit of time in certain games. You can see it here. Sporting have got that really narrow front five, blocking passes into the middle of the pitch. But what Manchester City do really well is exploit these spaces. You can see there is that room outside of the Sporting midfield, and I think in the Premier League, this is something that teams will look to exploit. Now, in terms of, is this too much of a problem? In the short term, probably not. It might sacrifice a bit of control on the game, but I think that's understandable under a new manager. The good thing is, even with the opposition getting this bit of space out wide, first of all, we would rather that space is out wide than in the middle of the pitch, because it's less dangerous out wide. But also, we do still have 5 players behind the ball, plus the 2 midfielders in a good position, so it's not like the team has been torn to shreds. It does just mean that at times the opposition might come onto us a little bit. And again, you can see it here. The narrow shape, stopping passes into the middle. But the space is definitely there out wide. This is something that Amorim will have to be very careful with, because there's a lot of quality in the Premier League. But should Manchester United kind of be compact and work hard, I think it will be okay. And there is actually a massive advantage to this when we can win the ball back. Now, the massive advantage that I'm talking about here is that you essentially almost have 2 cheat wingers out of possession. 2 wingers that are in a defensive position where, you know, they are defending, they are helping the team, but actually what they're really waiting for is the moment that the team wins the ball and can then transition quickly. Because these players start quite high and quite narrow, should you win possession back, you are straight away in a position to get directly at the opposition. You've got 3 players ready to go incredibly quick. Say in a normal system, what we might see is, you know, wingers defending quite wide, which means when you win the ball back, you've got to progress out wide, or you've got to go into an isolated centre forward. I don't think we will have that at Manchester United. Certainly not in most of the games, because I think these inside forwards will be narrower with their defensive positioning. And like I said, when we win the ball back, that could make us incredibly dangerous because we've got players really close to each other. We know that Højlund, Garnacho, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Ahmad, they're all great players in these situations. This could be great for Manchester United. Even someone like Mason Mount with his ball carrying could thrive in these positions. And again, this is something that Sporting used incredibly effectively. You can see defensively, the front 3 are pretty high but also quite narrow. Look how narrow that left winger is. And it means that when you win the ball back, you can just straight away get straight at the opposition, win the ball in this position here, and then go. Take players on. And like you can see, 3 players ready, straight on it. No waiting about, no waiting for players to join the attack. You can be direct, straight at the opposition. And I think the Old Trafford crowd will love this. Will absolutely love these transitioning moments where you can get towards the final third quickly, get shots off a goal, and hopefully score goals. This was something that Sporting have done so well under Ruben Amorim, and I'm really hoping we will see this at Manchester United. The players that you can get forward in the transition is genuinely frightening. The big thing for Manchester United will be making the right decisions. That is something we've struggled with a little bit at times this season. Hopefully we will see an improvement in this area. But overall, generally speaking, until the end of the season, what am I expecting? Not the high press. We will see it in some games, but I don't think we will see it all the time. Instead, I think it will be more of a mid-block, particularly against tougher opposition. The key will be compacting the middle of the pitch. Managing the wide space will be a little bit of a problem, so will the ball in behind. The goalkeeper plus the defenders need to be ready for that. But overall, generally speaking, I do think we will be more compact and more difficult to play through. As a result, we should face less shots at our goal, so defensively I think we will improve. I also think this system will help us in an attacking sense because there are more traps, more possibilities, more potential opportunities to win the ball back in midfield and then counter-attack quickly. So ultimately, I think this is the approach that Amorim will go for in the short term for the rest of this season. I think it will improve us defensively and also increase our counter-attacking opportunities, which should make us better going forward as well. So all in all, I think this is a way that Ruben Amorim can come in and very quickly improve Manchester United. Is it perfect? No. Is it the long-term goal of the side? I don't think so. Not quite. But in the short term, for the rest of this season, it is a really good way and a really effective way for Amorim to get results straight away, which is what Manchester United will want. We need that boost to get us moving up the league table. This is how I think Amorim will do it. But I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What approach do you think Amorim will take? Is this a system that he will use, or will he move the team a little bit higher or a little bit deeper? Which players will be key? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.